following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Getting Loser. We're starting a podcast. It's your boy, Cheetah.
I paused for... It's your boy, Yoder. I paused for the guy that's not here again.
Oh, sorry.
It's your boy, Rich.
Got you guys a little...
Check on your homies.
Yeah. Got you guys a little jump scare at the beginning. I switched spots today.
Yeah.
Just because Chop ain't here with us today. He got called into work, so... I figured I'd give it a... I wanted to see what it was like sitting over here, but I don't like it. I like sitting over. I feel superior over there. I feel like I'm the king.
I don't like it either.
Are we hat weather now? I feel like we're in hat weather.
I don't know. I put this on earlier, and I just haven't taken it off since. So I was afraid.
But now
to take
you want
it
to
off.
put a hat on because it's cold.
I was afraid to take it off and try to comb my hair. So I was like, "Fuck it, I'll just leave it. Bring it with me." I had to turn it around though. I don't want it to. It's got my work on it. So, but yeah, we're back again. Another week. Yeah, like I said, Chop got called into work, unfortunately, so he couldn't make it this week. But
it's not gonna feel the same.
So yeah, so it's just gonna be me and Yoder riding it out. You know what the people really come for, me and Yoder. That's what they come for, Yoder. Me and you. We're the face of the whole operation.
Yoder's the eye candy.
He is. Real quick though, before we get into anything else, I just want to give a quick update from our episode last week. In some crazy timing, the day we posted the video on that Friday, a guy had commented on the video. Shout out to Scuzzernut on YouTube, who commented on the video to let us know that they had actually broke the news that they had finally caught, or they'd finally linked the DNA to a suspect.
Yes.
So, Yoder, you want to take it away from there? You want to let us know who it was?
Yes. My source is KVUE out of Austin, Texas, who said that they had Brasher's. He was one of the guys that they had questioned earlier, and then he committed suicide in 1999. After 8 years after the murders took place. The announcement has prompted a wave of reaction from the community and officers. And others affected in this case, including and sadly, Brasher's own daughter, Deborah Brasher, who was just 8 when these murders took place. Unfortunately, something, and
so I didn't mean to cut you off here, but that's like, that part is like one of the craziest things, especially for like me, who like, obviously if you know me, you know, I listen to like a lot of serial killer podcasts. It's just like something that fascinates me. And that's one of the craziest things to me when I listen to these stories, is when you find out these people, like a lot of these guys, like had families and shit. So like, it's like you're going out, you're killing someone, and then you're going home and turning on dad mode. Like, dude, it's crazy. It's insane that, you know what I mean? Like, where it seems like these guys can just, boom, turn on a light and then go into dad mode. It's wild. And I can't even imagine having to be the kid when you grow up, and, you know what I mean, at the time, all you're thinking is, oh, my dad's a great guy. I loved him. And then you grow up and you find out, oh, guess what? My dad was killing people, and I never knew. Yeah, it's fucking wild. I couldn't imagine.
No, me neither.
Like, how do you even, I don't know. That shit's wild.
Question. So this guy, he committed suicide a long time ago.
Yeah, in 99, they said. Yeah.
So then, do we know, like, where did they why did his where did his DNA come up? Did they
Well-
exhume the body or something, or did they use a relative match, or how did they realize that this guy's DNA matched? Do we know? Like,
I'm not sure. I think they said his DNA had already been in the system, maybe from a previous crime.
Oh, okay.
They said he did. That they linked a couple other murders to him too, where they
Oh,
said he
wow.
was kind of
Oh,
like
I didn't
a.
even hear that either.
Yeah, they said he was kind of. They considered him kind of like a serial killer around that time. I guess I don't think they could ever prove it, but they had been linked. I guess his DNA had been linked to a lot of other crime scenes, right?
Yeah, Carolina or Kentucky,
Yeah.
believe, as well.
So I think his DNA must have already been in the system from something else, maybe from other crime, and they just, or it could have been like we were talking about last week when we were talking about this, about how it was funny because Rich was actually reminding us on the way in how we were literally talking about this last week about how, we were surprised how they haven't caught anybody by now because of how much farther DNA technology has come. And that's exactly how they caught the Golden State Killer finally. They linked him through like one of them family websites. They linked him like through a relative.
Right.
So I'm guessing that's how they caught this guy too, is maybe they put like the DNA sample maybe into one of those those family websites or something and came up with
I mean,
a
I think
match to
that's
a
like,
relative.
because there's I only know this because my wife is really into this true crime stuff as well, and she said that she read that like there's like it's not a government agency, like it's just private people, and they'll do that. They'll go into these sites, and then they'll do like these familiar matchful things somehow, and they like these like private citizens that are doing research. Quite often are the ones that like they'll have a suspect, so they'll maybe go to a relative, and then they'll see if they can get the relative's DNA, and a lot of times it'll catch like a cousin or something like that, like to kind of get a match going.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do, in the one article that Yoder sent us after the news broke, he sent to our group chat, I read a little bit of it. I do remember at one point the suspect, his daughter, saying something about how she always knew her dad was kind of weird growing up, but she couldn't, she didn't imagine that it was that crazy. You know what I mean?
She said that he was intelligent, mischievous, and strange.
Yeah.
It was through DNA that they found it.
Yeah, so that's fucking crazy. It was literally like we had literally just found out because, like I said, shout out to this guy who commented on the video. And when he commented on it, at first I was like scrambling. I'm like, fuck, how do we not know that they had already solved it? And then he was like, oh, well, no, no shame on your guys' part because the news literally just broke today. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck? So, it was crazy. It was wild timing. And me and Yoda were kind of like laughing about it because we had been trying to do this episode for a while and we kept pushing it back. You know what I mean? So it was kind of crazy the way it worked out.
They say things happen for a reason.
Yeah, so But it does kind of suck just because of the fact that the family won't ever really get like real justice because the guy did kill himself, but at least they could sleep a little easier now knowing that they know who did it. So
yeah, I that's one of those things, like I always think about that with never not knowing, like how do you it's just hard. I mean, you got to get up every day and like deal with that. I don't know, like it just that type of stuff. Any type of death destroys a marriage or a family, or like how do you like you got other kids and somebody still got to be a good parent to your other. Like I just don't know how people do it. I mean, if they're somehow able to have some semblance of a life after that. I mean, but imagine not that something as horrific as that murder was.
Yeah.
Like that was the first time I ever put a warning on your, like when I made your thumbnail, I put a warning on it because that one's a tough one. That like
that is
other
a
ones
tough
like,
one,
well, like, but this one was like,
Yeah.
because they were kids and it was just so awful and there was no resolution. Just hard, scary.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like I said, I listen to a lot of this stuff. Like I'm really big into true crime stuff, but whenever it comes to like cases with like involving kids, it's always the hardest to listen to because you know what I mean. Not that it's not bad when it's anybody, but if it's a kid, you're just like, man, like what a kid do to deserve some shit like that, you know?
When I was younger, I wanted to go into mortuary science,
Yeah.
but that's what stopped me is.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that's
had trouble with dealing with kids.
yeah, that's why I say like a lot like, you know, I don't know how like cops and stuff do it cuz I wouldn't be able to I see one situation with a kid, I'm out. I can't do it anymore. Like
Yeah,
just be too much for me, you know what I mean?
My
But,
wife likes a lot of those shows like Criminal Minds and that
Yeah,
stuff. And whenever it's a kid, I'm like, I'm out. I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
like,
I
I can't
can't
watch
do it, yeah.
even I know it's only fictional. Whenever there's a kid involved, I just can't watch those episodes.
Yeah,
I always
it's-
get up and I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna go
it's
do
always the
laundry. Like I
worst.
just don't like the ones where it's a kid.
Yeah, it's it's
know?
terrible. It's extra hard when it's in that type of situation cuz you know what I mean? Like it's a fucking kid, dude, you know what I mean? No kid deserves to have their life cut short for something like that, you know what I mean? But
I seen a kid that was he was rollerblading, and he was rollerblading on the side of the road, and this car was making a left-hand turn, and the car behind it went on the shoulder, and the kid was rollerblading, and he hit the kid,
yeah, it's rough, man.
and me and a friend tried to revive the kid. We got him breathing, but he died on the way to the hospital. That
Yeah.
that hurt for a while.
Yeah, it's the type of shit that never, you know what I mean? You could live 100 more years and that shit'll never leave your mind ever. You're going to remember that forever.
I was at the corner of Cayuga and Five Corners on Megaphone Boulevard, just minding my own business, waiting for the light to turn green. All of a sudden, these two kids try to beat the traffic light there, and the guy making a left-hand turn hits the kid. The kid comes flying on my bike. So I'm at the traffic light, and there's a second later, there's a thump, and then there's a kid on my hood
Jesus.
looking at me. And
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
brutal.
dude.
No
And
thanks.
then he looks at me and says, "Are you okay?" I'm like, dude, I was inside the car. You're on the car. Are you okay?
Yeah, that's crazy,
And
dude.
I gave him first aid and to the cops, to the paramedics came. And one of the paramedics used to work at the casino.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
So it was cool.
Yeah.
But the kid was, he's okay.
Thank God. God willing, yeah.
But that, and then the kid's parents tried to sue me. But they had William Attar. And
Hurt in a car, call William Mature.
well, this place was hurt on a car.
Not a sponsor of the show. But William, if you're out there and you'd like to sponsor the show,
Yeah,
reach out.
we'll take sponsors.
Hey, man.
Take sponsorships.
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no.
We'll talk about all your lawsuits, all your cases. That'll
Yeah.
be your new thing. You just cover, you just discuss, you just do deep dives into cases by William
Yeah, there
Attar.
you go.
Just for
That'd be cool.
just cover some of the costs of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? That'd be cool.
We're not proud. We'll take it. We'll
Yeah,
endorse
I'll
it.
do anything.
But the two incidences.
Yeah.
So did it get thrown out, or what happened with that? Like, did it never go to trial? Did you have to be deposed and all that stuff?
It never went to trial because I was just at the light, so I had no fault.
Right.
And it was. And the crazy thing is, I got a text from his mother, from Facebook and Messenger, thanking me for giving him first aid and doing everything. And she sent me a text message. Thanks for helping my son. And then a week later, I get the summons.
That must have been like a type of thing where, like, after everything calmed down, then the parents were like, oh, maybe we'll get a payday.
I guess we both had the same insurance company. Both people the guy that actually hit him and threw him on my car. We had Progressive, and I talked to a lawyer. And apparently, they sue everybody. They get
Sounds about
something.
right.
So apparently, they have nothing. They didn't have anything. So they sue everybody to try to get something.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
If I had a green light,
Yeah,
it would have been a different story.
yeah.
So he's lucky, and I'm lucky that the light was red.
Were you just sitting at the light?
Mm-hmm.
What were you supposed to do? Like make your car like disappear? Like
Well,
I mean, you were just sitting there.
I was right by Tim Hortons.
Right.
I was waiting there for the light to turn green. And it was her fault. And this was 1 o'clock in the morning. And the kid was only 16 at the time.
That's
This
crazy.
happened in 2017.
Yeah, it's funny when people will sue for anything. So
July 5th. Never will forget the day.
You know what? That's funny because we were just talking about on the way here. I don't know why it came up. For some reason, we were talking about Chop's car when he got hit by the car at the casino, working at the casino. And that's funny because he was hit on like the 7th, July 7th. And the only reason I know it was the 7th is because it was Free Slurpee Day. And I only remember that because we got into a fight that morning before it happened because me and him used to do Free Slurpee Day together, you know what I mean? Like, it was our thing. And his girlfriend at the time was in town visiting, and he went with her instead, and I remember I was pissed, so we got into a fight. And then later that night, or later that day, I was with my girlfriend at the time, and somebody called me, and they're like, yo, Chop just got in an accident. And I was like, fuck, dude. I'm like, what if the last fucking thing we would have ever said to each other was that I was pissed about 7-Eleven? You know what I mean? But yeah, it was fucking crazy. Crazy shit. But, yeah, so, I mean, obviously, not the, I'm glad that, the story has a bit of a happy ending, at least, for the parents and shit. It's definitely a plus. It's just, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it literally is just crazy to me that the way it played out, like, the news dropped literally the same day our episode dropped. Like, it's crazy, Like you said, everything happens for a reason, maybe, But, yeah, so I just want to get that out of the way real quick before we jumped into anything else so we didn't forget. But, Yoder, how was your week? How are things?
Well, it's been 365 days without a deer.
Yeah! Woo, woo, woo!
So, the week was quiet. It was good.
Yeah, that's good, man. Quiet week's a good week, in my opinion.
I went Saturday. One of my friends turned 50, the big 50. So,
It's a big one.
yes, he's just inherited. His mother passed away. She had a bar,
Oh, shit.
and he inherited the bar.
Oh, shit, that's pretty cool.
interesting.
What's the bar called?
Campbell's.
Campbell's. I've never heard of it.
Called
Oh, never
Campbell's
heard of
Inn.
it.
And it's
pretty
funny
cool.
because it makes awesome soup.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh, good for him. That's pretty cool. It's nice. Nice little, if you got to go through something tragic like that, at least you got something to remember it by now. You know?
And
That's pretty cool.
in fact, he sponsors a race team.
Oh, really?
When the race car driver wants to come on
Oh, on here?
in the
Oh, shit. Hell yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, anytime, dude. I'd love to. That'd be sweet. I'd love to talk to him. Yeah, it'd be cool. We'll have to set that up one of these days.
talk about everything.
Oh, perfect.
The
Even
only
better.
downside, he's not a Bills fan.
Ah, that's it. He can't come on a lot.
He's a rival.
That's it. He can't come on anymore. I lied. I take back the
What does he
invitation.
root for?
The fish.
Even worse.
The only thing I'll say about those
Nah, actually,
situations
it's not
is
that
once in a while, like you find out cool stories why someone roots for those teams.
Which I asked him.
Yep.
Family. His grandfather.
I can if it's a grandfather thing or a
okay,
family thing.
that-
I
I can
usually
excuse that.
If it's
Yeah,
just
that's excusable.
I like Dan Marino, then
Yeah.
screw you. But if it's because like my grandfather was a Dolphins fan or
Yeah,
or it's
that's
a
different.
family thing,
Yeah,
then that's different.
yeah, that's
You know.
different. Okay,
You can be mad at the grandfather if he was like a Bob Greasy fan or something stupid like that. But if it's like, well, I have that tie to my grandfather or my dad, then it's different. I can forgive it in that situation.
Okay, invitation back out again.
Like I'm a Tom Brady fan, but that's because I'm a big Michigan fan, and I've been a Michigan fan since.
And
I was
that's
5 years old.
acceptable.
Yeah,
It's not your fault that he ended up on the Patriots.
it's the only reason I don't resent you for the rest of your life because of that.
Yeah, with sports, if it's a thing because like, well, my dad was a Bills fan, but when he was growing up, he was a Bears fan because there wasn't a team in Buffalo because my dad would have been 90 in January. So like there, for most of his life, there wasn't an NFL team. There wasn't even NFL. Like when he was a kid, he just would listen. He could hear the Bears on the radio, and he was never a baseball fan. So I'm sure he would have probably been a Yankees fan. But like my dad never really liked baseball, but he always liked football. So he was a Bears fan. So George Halas, and so he was always when the Bears got really good in '85. My dad was never happier because he even said, I remember like when the Bills didn't win the Super Bowl, obviously that broke his heart. But he's like, but when I was a kid, I was a Bears fan, and I got to see the Bears win the Super Bowl. And obviously when in '85 when they had that team with, he's like, like he was so excited because that was like his childhood team.
Oh, Bears. So. That's why in New England, a lot of people are Giants fans because at that when they were younger, they didn't have the Patriots.
Oh, okay.
And the Giants were the team that was televised in that area.
Right. Weren't they originally the Boston Patriots?
Huh?
Weren't they originally the Boston Patriots and then switched to New England Patriots at some point? I saw the other day they played and they had the old helmets on, where the guy like with the tri-corner hat. Like I still like that older. I still like that older logo.
I like that logo too. I like that a lot. It's pretty cool.
I was like that logo.
I didn't. I mean, that logo's cool.
Don't like the Patriots, but I always like that logo.
Yeah, that is a nice. That is a sweet logo. I think it looks better than just the head thing, whatever it is now.
The older logos are better. I like those classic logos. Like I still like the standing buffalo logo.
Yeah, me too. I really like the standing buffalo. I think it's sick.
Or that Buccaneers one where he's got the knife in his mouth. Like I like that one. The one was they were in the orange when they were like the orangesicle colors.
Yeah.
Like
I think it's hilarious that the Bills are wearing their rivalry jerseys on Sunday and it's gonna be like 80 degrees. Like the whole thing is built because the whole color palette of it is built because they play in the snow, and it's gonna be fucking 80 degrees on Sunday.
Who's this week?
This is the Patriots.
Oh, okay.
8:00 game, of course.
Patriots look all right. They won. No, wait. Did they? Did they
Yeah,
win any
they're,
games? No, they won. They're 2-2, I think, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Right, 2-2. Let me check real quick.
Dolphins, not so much.
Yeah, the Dolphins are.
Dolphins and the Jets don't look too good.
I think the Jets just confirmed themselves as the worst ones, though, because I think they just lost to the Dolphins.
How was your week? I'm helping you. Since you're not sitting in your blue chair, I feel like I have to help out
Oh,
with
okay,
some
cool.
hosting
Thanks.
technique.
It was pretty good. I didn't really. Yeah, they're 2-2. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't really do much either. It was a quiet week. It was nice. Yeah, I didn't do much. Most exciting thing that happened to me was the other day. I got home from work and I watched The Big Green for the 30th anniversary. Rewatched it. Fucking love that movie. But, a lot of those movies, you go back and watch them now and you realize, like, there was a lot of dark shit in these movies that I didn't notice when I was a kid. Like in that movie, the one girl, Kate, her dad's like a super alcoholic. I never realized before.
I don't think I know that movie.
You never seen The Big Green? It was a Disney movie.
Who's in it?
It was kind of overshadowed by like Sandlot and that around the same Angels in the
okay.
Outfield around the same time.
Is it like a baseball movie?
No, it's a soccer movie.
Oh, you think I would know it then?
Yeah, it's a movie about it's like this substitute teacher that moves to like this small town in Texas.
Isn't Smalls in it or not Smalls?
I have to look it up.
Yeah, the kid who played Squints in the Sandlot's in it.
Oh, okay.
Same as the guy who played Hamilton Porter. He's also in it.
I'm gonna have to look that up because I'm a soccer.
It's a fun little movie. I mean, it's the one guy's in. I can't ever remember. Oh, Steve Guttenberg.
Is he the coach?
No, he plays the sheriff in town, but he becomes one of the coaches. But he's great in that movie. It's a fun little movie, but yeah, I think it was overshadowed. It was released around the same time as like Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah, they was all those
stuff
movies.
like that. You know what I mean?
Like
so I think
Little
it kind of
Giants.
I think it kind of
movies.
overshadowed by that. Yeah, speaking of that, then I was on such a kick of young sports movies, and I watched The Little Giants. I started watching it the other day. I finished it this morning.
That's the one with Ed O'Neill, right?
Yeah, fucking love that movie, man. What a great movie that is. So much fun, dude.
Yeah,
They don't make movies like that anymore.
Not in the kid movies, but I like that.
Those kid movies, sport movies are always fun. And
They're always
they're
they're
gonna
a good
end
time,
and
yeah.
everything. Like
Yeah.
Like Bad News Bears, I like.
Bad News
Walter
Bears.
Matthau and the Bad News Bears. He's freaking hilarious in that movie. Like,
And I like all of them. I think they're all good.
yeah.
Yeah. Me and Chop used to joke that we were gonna be like him and what was the other one, Jack Lemmon?
Grumpy old man.
Yeah, from Grumpy Old Man. We used to joke that we were gonna be like that. We were gonna end up living next to each other when we were like 80. We were just gonna be like arch enemies. Yeah, that's what his grandfather used to tell us all the time. He used to compare us to them and like Stan and Ollie.
I like that they did that movie, Grumpy Old Men, because obviously they were in the original Odd Couple movie that led to the Odd Couple TV show. So like that was one when that movie came out. My dad's like, "Hey, I want to go to the movie." So we went to see like Grumpy Old Man, and everybody in those movies were all people that he watched growing up as a kid. Like, and obviously Sophia Loren was in the second one, and with the red haired what's her name? The redhead that was the girl, the woman in the first one.
Oh, I don't remember.
I can't think of her name. She was big. So, I mean, obviously she was older, but she still looked pretty damn good for her age. And Burgess Meredith was in there too. And there was a lot of that was a good movie. Like both those movies.
Yeah, I like
really
that.
good.
I like those movies.
Those are both. They were fun movies. Like and like you said, there's a lot of those movies. I don't even know they make those movies now. They just go right to Netflix or something.
Yeah,
You don't see those in the theater.
Yeah, it was funny actually because funny enough, I was scrolling on TikTok earlier today, and somebody was talking about like this guy was just like talking about like old movies and shit, and somebody said something in the comments that really stuck with me. It really made me think. They said that the reason movies today don't hit as hard as movies did back then is because the movies back then had soul. You know what I mean? Like they made you feel something. Whereas like a lot of these movies today, they're kind of just like they're good movies, but you know what I mean? They're not like. There's not a lot of movies made today that are going to stick with you. You know what I mean?
I think that's why Sinners.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, Sinners is fucking good, dude. It's so good.
That are, at least with me.
Literally, my buddy, like I told my buddy that Sinners is like still in like my top 4 for the year, and he's like, "Oh, I was good, but it's not that good." And I'm like, "Dude, literally every day the scenes from that movie replay in my head still. Like I still can't get that movie out of my head. That's how much I enjoyed it." And I watched it. Same with Superman. I watched Superman 3 times.
Yeah.
I'm not even a DC fan. I've never liked Superman. I watched it only 3 times now, and I never get sick of it. Each time I watched it, I loved it more.
The new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it 3 times in the theaters. I haven't watched it on TV yet, just because I just haven't really been in the mood to watch it on TV. But I'm definitely going to watch it on TV, and I know I won't love it as much because it's on TV now.
Yeah.
And I do love and again I like the original because obviously I was like 10 or 11 or 12, whatever it was when the Christopher Reeve one came out, and obviously I love that movie because I still watch. I probably have said this before. Like I still a couple times a year watch the Helicopter Rescue with Christopher Reeves. I still think that's one of the best superhero
it is pretty
first
iconic.
Appearances.
It is iconic.
Like when he's like like oh I can't believe it's just the build up of it's so good. Like, there's so many things about that one. And I know that, like, Kevin Feige and those guys say that whenever they do a Marvel movie, they still all get together. They make the whole cast get together and they watch Superman the movie because they all recognize if you're going to make a superhero movie, it's still it's still the standard. Like, we have to do this. Like, we have to be that good. Mm-hmm. If we're gonna, a lot of them don't get to that. I mean, none of them don't have that longevity. Like, and I don't know. It's just filmmaking or Christopher Reeve or whatever it is. The music. It's just it's all the perfect things come together. Like, but no, I mean, the new one, I still really like the new one, and there's just not a lot of movies that give you that like positive feeling that we used to get.
Yeah, they make you feel something.
Movies.
Yeah,
like it's almost like not cool anymore or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me and Yoder seen it twice in theater, once in IMAX together, and then I watched it on HBO Max when it dropped on there.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely wasn't as epic as watching it in a theater, watching it on HBO Max, but I still enjoyed it.
Right.
But obviously, it's going to be a better experience seeing it in like a big-ass theater. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm a sci-fi guy, and that's why I like Star Trek movies and TV shows so much, because Star Trek, there's always like, not necessarily a happy ending, but there's always like an ending that is uplifting. And I like that about, like, I don't like the fact that a lot of your sci-fi movies are always like, oh, the world and the apocalypse and everybody's dead. And like, and there is that aspect of Star Trek behind the lore with it. But I like the fact that like in the future, maybe we don't all suck. Like, and Star Trek does that well, where they like the optimism that maybe humanity will get better in the future. Because I don't need realism, and I think that's why Superman for people hit so well. I think that's why like shows like Ted Lasso hit so well, because like you want something in the world to be positive. Not everything should be negative all the time.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I tell a lot of people when they ask me why The Goonies is still like one of my favorite movies. Because I'm like, dude, it's got everything you need, bro. It's an adventure movie. It's got, you know what I mean? It's heartbreaking, and then it ends happy. Everyone ends up happy in the end. Even the monster gets accepted at the end. Like, how could you not love it?
You're coming home with me.
Yeah, it's a perfect movie. You know what I mean? You could watch it even now, and it still makes you feel good. I mean, that's exactly what going to the movie should be like. It should make you feel good.
E.T.'s the same way.
Or even just like not even just feel good. Like going and seeing a movie should make you feel something when you're watching a movie.
Well,
If you're
movies
not
were
feeling
always
something,
about
then
they were always about escapism, especially if you think about the heyday movies, like those the big musicals of the time, like the Busby Berkeley's and all those the big musicals of the time. Like people's lives were hard, so like you could go, for whatever it cost back then, you could go and you could escape. And like and I'm not saying we shouldn't have movies that are important. We should have those too. But I just wish there were more movies in the theater that were just like a roller coaster ride, like just fun.
yeah.
And I think the first Star Wars did that. Like it got people back into the theaters because it was just this fun roller coaster ride.
See, this is why I like, especially lately, I've been like going back and forth about whether or not I should bring back my movie podcast, because I could literally just sit here for an hour and just talk about movies.
You have a real cool wealth of knowledge of different movies, and a lot of them I don't know. Like, and I pride myself in knowing a lot about movies, but you've watched a lot more movies than I've watched.
That's literally all I did growing up. I just watched movies. I was such a. I know it's hard to believe people that know me now, but I was super shy when I was a kid. So that's all I did was I would just watch movies, and like movies were like my best friend. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like my mom would like have to force me to go outside and play with actual people. Because I'd be like, nah, dude, I'm just going to stay and watch a movie. Let me watch Good Burger for the 80th time. And she'd be like, no. She'd have to literally push me out the door and lock it and say, stay out there, play, do something. She regretted that real quick when my buddy hit me in the face with a stick and I bit through my cheek. Bled all over my dad's white station wagon. Oh, jeez. Yeah, that's a fun story. That's a fun story for another time. That same kid broke my nose too. Not a very good friend looking back now, but
my older brother, he wouldn't let me. He was hitting a beach ball with a driver.
Yeah,
and he wouldn't let me, so I took it from him, and at the same time I took the club and swung it backwards. He jumped on the beach ball, and I didn't hit the beach ball. I hit his nose.
Ooh!
I broke his nose.
Yeah, my brother used to sit on my head, so good times.
My older brother, when we were younger, we would tear each other apart. So now, they say that when you fight with your siblings when you're younger, that when you're older you have a stronger.
Oh yeah, loyal to the bone. Now, that's me and my brother, exact same way. He used to mess with me all the time, but now anybody else messes with me, he'd be there in a heartbeat. Yeah, it's the exact same way.
I broke my nose once.
Really? I've done it twice.
You know who broke my nose? My son.
Oh.
When he was like 8.
Oof.
So we have these trees in our front yard, and like a soccer ball or whatever ball got stuck in the tree, right? So I'm like, trying to fish it out with something, and I don't realize he's gone and got this little plastic rake. Like it looks like a rake, but it's just plastic. Yeah. And it just, it was never going to reach because he's 7, so he doesn't know. He might not even have been 7. He might have been like 5, and he's going like this, trying to get it down. I don't even see him, so I just turn into it, and the rake just comes in. He just has full on swing, there's no way that this little plastic rake should have had enough structural integrity to break my nose. All I know is it hits me in the nose, and immediately there's this gush of blood that just comes out of it, and it definitely hurt for like 3 weeks. I probably should have. And I'm laying there like got my ass kicked by like a 6-year-old. Like, he says he doesn't, it's funny, he doesn't remember it at all. Like, he doesn't have memory of this at all. And I'm kind of glad, because he probably would have been felt like really guilty.
Oh, yeah,
if
right.
He broke his dad's
You'd have
nose.
felt so
Like,
bad.
so much for like thinking your dad's like a superhero, right? Like your dad's like laying on the ground. Like I didn't cry. To my credit, I didn't cry like holy, but I didn't swear either. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? So
Yeah, that's good.
So
Yeah, I guess we can get into the episode, but real quick before we get into that too, I just wanted to give a heads up, just because this was another episode I've wanted to do for a while, and we kept pushing it back just because of recent events. I thought it was just too much, but we kind of talked about it. We kind of figured, there's not really gonna ever be a good time to talk about it, so I just wanted to give kind of like our own caution right now that if what's been going on recently in the world, with what happened to Charlie Kirk and the church just recently, stuff like that. If that kind of stuff is something you're kind of like in a position where you're like kind of overloaded with, and you don't really would feel comfortable listening to it again, you should probably just turn this episode off now, because that is the subject of this episode tonight. It's we're going to be talking about an incident from '84 that happened at a McDonald's in San Diego. So if that's something you don't think you'd be comfortable listening to, obviously just cut it out and we'll see you next week. No worries. I just wanted to give people kind of a caution and a heads up now, just so they would know. So but yeah. So yeah, let's get into it, I guess. Anybody else got anything to say real quick? Or?
no, like I said before we got on the air that I didn't know this one, and I'm looking at it a little bit now, and I just don't remember this one.
Yeah.
It was '84, so
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't paying attention much to that stuff back then.
Yeah, so we're talking about this incident called the San Ysidro McDonald's massacre. It was an act of mass murder which occurred at a McDonald's restaurant in the San Ysidro neighborhood of San Diego, California, on July 18th, 1984. The perpetrator, named James Huberty, was 41 at the time. He'd fatally shot 22 people, including an unborn baby, and wounded 19 others before being killed by a police sniper approximately 77 minutes after he had first opened fire. At the time, the massacre was the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in U.S. history, being surpassed only 7 years later by the Luby shooting, but it does remain the deadliest mass shooting in California. But before we get into the actual event of what happened, we're going to talk a little bit about our perpetrator here, this James Huberty. James Oliver Huberty, born October 11th, 1942, was born in Canton, Ohio. He was the second of two children born to Earl Vincent, a quality inspector, and an icicle. And what the hell? Icicle Evelyn Huberty? What the hell kind of name is Icicle? Or Isel? Maybe it's Isel? I don't know. She was a homemaker. Both parents were devotedly religious, and the family were regular attendees at the local United Methodist churches. When Hubert was 3 years old, he contracted polio. To minimize the debility of his ailment, he was required to wear steel and leather braces upon both legs. Hey, kind of like Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Maybe they stole the idea for Forrest Gump from this guy. And they're like, you know what? We'll just leave out all the murder. Make him cooler. Although Huberty had made a progressive recovery from this ailment, he would be affected with a mild limp for the remainder of his life. In 1950, Earl Huberty purchased a 155-acre farm in Mount Eaton. Isel refused to live in a rural location and refused to even view the property. Shortly thereafter, Isel abandoned her family to perform sidewalk preaching as a Pentecostal missionary in Tucson, Arizona. Huberty found his mother's abandonment emotionally devastating. His father would later recollect finding his son slumped against the family chicken coop, sobbing. Huberty was a sullen child with few friends whose primary interest was target practice. A family acquaintance would later describe him as a queer little boy who practiced essentially with a target pistol. By his teens, Huberty was something of an amateur gunsmith, but due to his family's limp, his family's extreme religious behaviors, and his reluctance to socialize with his peers, Huberty was frequently targeted by the bullies at Waynedale High School. An average scholar, he graduated 51st out of a class of 77 students in 1960. In 1962, Huberty enrolled at a Malone College where he initially studied sociology before opting to study at the Pittsburgh University of Mortuary Science. Whoa, Yoder. Are you secretly Huberty? Reincarnated? He graduated with an honors from this institute in 1964, being issued with a funeral director's license and the following year an embalmer's license. What's embalming? That's what they do to the bodies, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Mortuary.
Yeah, okay. In early 1965, Huberty married Etna Markland, whom he had met while attending Malone College. Shortly after his marriage, Huberty obtained employment at a funeral home in Canton. Although proficient at embalming, Huberty's inverted personality made him ill-suited to dealing with members of the public, causing minor conflicts with his superiors. Nonetheless, Huberty worked in this profession for 2 years before opting to become a welder for a firm in Louisville. He worked for this firm for 2 years before securing a better-paid position at Babcock and Wilcox in June 1969. Although reclusive and taciturn, Huberty's employers considered him a reliable worker. He willingly took overtime, earned promotions, and by mid-1970s regularly earned between $25,000 and $30,000 per year, which would be $146,000 to $175,000 adjusted for inflation. Shortly after Huberty was hired by his firm, he and his wife moved into a 3-story home in affluent section of Massillon, Ohio. In the winter of 1971, this home was destroyed in a fire. Shortly thereafter, James and Etna bought another house on the same street. They later built a 6-apartment building on the grounds of their first home, which they managed. Their daughters, Zelia and Cassandra, were born in 1972 and 1974. Huberty had a history of domestic violence, frequently slapping or punching his daughters, holding knives to their throats, or beating his wife. Jeez, this guy sounds like a real winner.
Yeah.
Nice. On one occasion, Etna filed a report with the Canton Department of Children and Family Services stating that her husband had messed up her jaw, although she later insisted on the majority of occasions he assaulted her, he struck her only once. Beginning in 1976, Etna repeatedly attempted to persuade her husband to seek counseling and alleviate his sources of stress, although he refused to seek any form of therapy. In personal efforts to pacify her husband's temper, anxiety, and general paranoia, and to both influence and control his behavior, Etna took great efforts to minimize any possibility of agitating her husband. She also gradually developed a mechanism whereby she claimed to be able to read his future by playing tarot cards. By reading or playing tarot cards, Huberty believed her. Etna's readings would produce a temporary calming effect, and Huberty would typically follow the recommendations his wife made in these readings. Jesus Christ. So this guy beat his wife, and the only way she could stop him from beating her and the kids was by reading tarot cards and telling them, oh, this is what your future looks like. Nice. Sounds like a great guy. To his neighbors and his coworkers, Huberty was perceived as a sullen, ill-tempered, and somewhat paranoid individual, obsessed with firearms and who harbored a mental tally of every setback, insult, or general source of frustration, real or perceived. Jesus. Against himself or his family within his mind. Occasionally, Huberty would retaliate in response to any real perceived injustice in an effort to settle what he termed my debts, and conflicts with his neighbors would once lead to his detainment on charges of disorderly conduct. On one occasion, he is known to have formed the father of 2 girls whom he had encouraged his daughters to fight in response to a conflict between the children. I believe in paying my debts, both good and bad. Sick, dude. He just told his girls, hey, go over and beat their asses. We're paying debts. Nice. And nobody thought, hey, maybe we should give the cops a head up on this guy. He seems a little crazy. But I guess back then it wasn't really, it's not like now where if you see a crazy person, you're like, hey, that guy's probably going to shoot people one day.
Right.
I guess back then it was kind of just, not as serious probably. What?
It wasn't a thing where it happened every week.
Yeah. Oh, great. Huberty was a conspiracy theorist and a self-proclaimed survivalist. Huberty believed an escalation of the Cold War was inevitable and that President Jimmy Carter and later Ronald Reagan and the United States government were conspiring against him. Oh, that's all I needed to hear about this guy.
Yep.
It completely makes sense now. Convinced of an imminent increase in Soviet aggression, Huberty believed that a breakdown of society was fast approaching, perhaps through economic collapse or nuclear war. He committed himself to prepare to survive this perceived collapse and provisioned his house with ample reserve supplies of non-perishable food and numerous guns, some purchased from co-workers that he intended to use to defend his home during what he believed was the upcoming apocalypse. According to one family acquaintance named Jim Aslings, Huberty's home was bedecked with loaded firearms to such a degree that wherever Huberty was sitting or standing within his home, he could just reach over and get a gun. Each firearm was loaded with the safety catch disabled. Oh, that's smart. Nice, good for him. Really leaning into the whole nutso thing. In November 1982, Huberty was laid off from his welding job at Babcock & Wilcox, causing him to become despondent over his dire financial situation and a general inability to provide for his family. One coworker would later recollect that upon being notified of the impending closure of his engineering firm, Huberty had made a comment indicating that if he was unable to provide for his family, he intended to commit suicide and take everyone with him. According to Etna, shortly after her husband became unemployed, Huberty began hearing voices. That tracks. That definitely makes sense. In early 1983, he placed a loaded pistol against his temple, threatening to commit suicide. Etna successfully dissuaded her husband from shooting himself, although he later remarked to her, "You should have let me shoot myself." Looking back, Etna, you probably should have. But that's crazy. I thought this dude was just like a regular dude. I didn't know he was like legit insane. I mean, I guess it makes sense, though.
Yeah.
No normal thinking person is going to do what he did. Unable to find lasting employment in Ohio, James and Etna sold their 6-unit apartment building for $115,000 in the spring of 1983. Shortly thereafter, Huberty obtained alternate welding employment with a union metal manufacturing company. This employment lasted 5 weeks before the closure of the plant. Weeks after he became unemployed, Huberty and one of his daughters were injured in a traffic incident. In the weeks following this accident, Huberty noted an aggravation in neck pains he had endured since childhood. He also noted an occasional increasing nerve tremor in his hands and arms. Jesus. In the summer of 1983, the Hubertys applied for residency in Mexico, believing the money obtained from the sale of their apartment building would financially sustain the family longer in Mexico than in America. Having also sold their home for just $12,000 in cash in September, with the buyer assuming their $48,000 mortgage, Huberty informed family acquaintances of his intentions to relocate the family to Tijuana in search of employment opportunities, confidently saying, "We're going to show them who's boss." Yeah. We're going to move to Mexico and become drug lords. Off topic, you ever seen the movie Transylvania? It's like one of those like really like National Lampoon's stupid, like really shitty National Lampoon's movies.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like the two of the guys like end up living there because they find out that they could become rich by selling their blue jeans. And they become like millionaires there. It's so fucking stupid. I don't know why I just thought of that. When Huberty and his family moved from Ohio to Tijuana in October 1983, he left all but the most essential of his family's possessions in storage in Ohio, but ensured he brought his huge collection of guns, ammunition, and survival supplies with him. According to published reports, Huberty's wife and daughters embraced their new environs and became friendly with their neighbors.
Oh, friendlies.
Although Huberty, who spoke little Spanish, was swollen and taciturn, unable to find employment in Tijuana, Huberty quickly regretted his decision to relocate to New Mexico. Within 3 months, the family relocated to San Ysidro, a largely poor district of San Diego just north of the Mexico-United States border, which in 1984 had a population of 13,000.
Wow.
In San Ysidro, the Hubertys rented an apartment within the Cottonwood Apartments as Huberty sought employment. The fact his family were the only Anglo-Americans within the apartment complex irritated Huberty, who was notably rude to his neighbors. Shortly thereafter, Huberty applied to a newspaper advertisement offering security guard training and a federally funded program. He completed this course on April 12th and soon obtained employment with a security firm in Chula Vista, assigned with guarding a condominium complex. The money earned enabled the family to have their furniture shipped from Ohio, and the family relocated to a 2-bedroom apartment on Averill Road the same month. The monthly rent for the apartment was $450. On July 10th, Huberty was summarily dismissed from his job. His employers informed Huberty the reasons for his dismissal were his poor work performance and a noted general physical instability. Nice. Good for him. Real piece of shit.
Yes.
Oh, hold on. Okay, now in the events leading up to the shooting on July 18th, on July 15th, 1984, James Huberty commented to his wife, Etna, that he suspected he had a mental health problem. 2 days later, on the morning of July 17th, he called the San Diego Mental Health Clinic requesting an appointment. Leaving his contact details with the receptionist, Huberty was assured the clinic would return his call within hours. According to his wife, Huberty sat quietly beside the telephone for several hours awaiting the return call, before abruptly walking out of the family home and riding to an unknown destination on his motorcycle. Unbeknownst to Huberty, the receptionist had misspelled his name as Schuberty. His polite demeanor conveyed no sense of urgency to the operator, and he had elaborated in the phone call that he had never been hospitalized for mental health issues. Therefore, the call had been logged as a non-crisis inquiry to be handled within 48 hours. Holy shit. So just like... Hold on. So this is like the same kind of shit that like you see with like serial killers. Like they're like arrested on smaller crimes before they hit their big sprees.
Right.
And then they're let go. And you just like think like, holy shit, if this one thing could have went differently,
Right.
it would have been a completely different story. Same with this. Like if she wouldn't have
Misspelled his name.
Yeah, misspelled his name, and if she wouldn't have thought that he was a no threat and that it could wait, who knows what could have happened. This whole thing could have been avoided. So, like, it's crazy to, like, when you read stories like this and you hear about shit like this, to be able to look back at it from, like, now and see, like, holy shit, dude, like, this whole thing could have been a completely different story.
Right.
You know what I mean? But in the moment, obviously, you don't know that it's going to lead to this. But it's wild, dude. That's one of my favorite things about, like, reading about stories like this is just, like, you just make, you know what I mean? It makes you, like, scratch your brain, like, holy shit, dude.
Aha.
Yeah, like, your aha moment. Approximately 1 hour later, Huberty returned home in a contented mood. After eating dinner, Huberty, his wife, and their 2 daughters, Zalila, 12, and Cassandra, 10, cycled to a nearby park. Later that evening, he and Etna watched a movie together on their television. The following morning, Wednesday, July 18th, Huberty, his wife, and children visited the San Diego Zoo. In their course of their walk through the zoo, Huberty told his wife of his belief that his life was effectively over. Referring to the mental health clinic's failure to return his call, the previous day he said, well, society had their chance. Oof. That's, Jesus. That's grim. Knowing what after, you know what I mean? Sitting where we are now, knowing what it led to. Like, that's like the biggest of red flags right there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if somebody that's just nuts telling you like, oh, society had their chance. But, like we were saying before, I'm sure back then it wasn't like a normal thing. So there was no reason really to, you know, think, oh shit, this could have been something, you know what I mean? But after eating lunch at a McDonald's restaurant in the Claremont neighborhood of San Diego, the Huberty family returned home. Shortly thereafter, Huberty walked into his bedroom wearing a maroon t-shirt and a green camouflage slacks. As his wife laid relaxing upon their bed, he leaned toward Etna and said, I want to kiss you goodbye. Etna kissed her husband, that asked him where he was going, stating her intention to soon prepare the family dinner. Huberty calmly replied he was going hunting. Hunting for humans. Bro.
Everybody.
I mean, I know you could, you know what I mean? Not being able to see the sign when he says something like society had their chance.
Right.
But if this dude tells you I'm going to hunt for humans, you don't think that that's something?
Right.
What the fuck? Like, you know the dude's crazy.
Okay, honey. Good luck.
Oh, okay. Bye then. Whatever, you silly man. Jesus. Holding a gun across his shoulder and carrying a box of ammunition and a bundle wrapped in checkered blanket, Huberty glanced towards Zalila as he walked towards the front door of their apartment and said, "Goodbye, I won't be back." Huberty then drove down San Ysidro Boulevard. According to eyewitnesses, he drove first toward a Big Bear supermarket, then toward a post office, before entering the parking lot of McDonald's approximately 200 yards away from his Averill Road apartment. At approximately 3:56 p.m. on July 18th, Huberty drove his black Mercury Marquis sedan into the parking lot of McDonald's restaurant on San Ysidro Boulevard. In his possession were a 9mm Browning HP semi-automatic pistol, a 9mm Uzi carbine, a Winchester 1200 12-gauge pump-action shotgun, and a box and a cloth bag filled with hundreds of rounds of ammunition for each weapon. A total of 45 customers were present inside the restaurant. Entering the restaurant minutes later, Huberty aimed his shotgun at a 16-year-old employee named John Arnold from a distance approximately 15 feet. As he did so, the assistant manager, Guillermo Flores, shouted, "Hey, John, that guy's going to shoot you." According to Arnold, when Huberty pulled the trigger, nothing happened. As Huberty inspected his gun, the manager of the restaurant, 22-year-old Neva Kane, walked toward the service counter of the restaurant in the direction of Arnold, as Arnold, believing the incident to be a distasteful joke, began to walk away from the gunman. Huberty fired his shotgun towards the ceiling before aiming the Uzi at Kane, shooting her once before beneath her left eye. Kane died minutes later. Sorry. Immediately after shooting Kane, Huberty fired his shotgun at Arnold, wounding the teenager in the chest and arm before shouting a comment to the effect of "everybody on the ground." Huberty then referred to all present in the restaurant as dirty swine, Vietnam assholes, before claiming that he had killed 1,000, then he intended to kill 1,000 more. Upon hearing Huberty's profane rant and seeing Kane and Arnold shot, one customer, a 25-year-old Victor Rivera, tried to persuade Huberty not to shoot anyone else. In response, Huberty shot Riviera 14 times, repeatedly shouting, "Shut up," as Riviera screamed in pain.
Wow.
As staff and customers tried to hide beneath tables and service booths, Huberty turned his attention towards 6 women and children huddled together. He first killed 19-year-old Maria Camarno Silva with a single gunshot to the chest, then fatally shot 9-year-old Claudia Perez in the stomach, cheek, thigh, hip, leg, chest, back, armpit, and head with his Uzi. He then wounded Perez's 15-year-old sister Imelda once in the hand with the same weapon and fired upon 11-year-old Aurora Pena with his shotgun. Pena, initially wounded in the leg, had been shielded by her pregnant aunt, 18-year-old Jackie Reyes. Huberty shot Reyes 48 times with the Uzi. Beside his mother's body, 8-month-old Carlos Reyes sat up and wailed, whereupon Huberty shouted at the baby, then killed him with a single pistol shot to the center of the back. Jesus Christ, dude.
No.
It's rough, man.
Yes.
Rough. Huberty then shot and killed a 62-year-old trucker named Lawrence Versulis before targeting a family seated near the play area of the restaurant who had tried to shield their son and his friend beneath the tables with their bodies. 31-year-old Blythe Reagan Herrera had shielded 11-year-old son Mateo beneath one booth as her husband Ronald protected Mateo's friend, 12-year-old Keith Thomas, beneath a booth directly across from them. Ronald Herrera urged Thomas not to move, shielding the boy with his body. Thomas was shot in the shoulder, arm, wrist, and left elbow, but was not seriously wounded. Ronald Herrera was shot 6 times in the stomach, chest, arm, hip, shoulder, and head, but survived. His wife, Blythe, and his son, Mateo, were both killed by numerous gunshots to the head. Hold on a second. Sorry. Nearby, 3 women had also attempted to hide beneath a booth. 24-year-old Guadalupe Del Rio lay against a wall. She was shielded by her friends. 25-year-old Gloria Ramirez and 31-year-old Ares Delcy Velez Vargas. Del Rio was hit several times but was not seriously wounded. Ramirez was unhurt, whereas Vargas received a single shotgun wound to the back of the head. She died of her wound the next day. The only person fatally wounded who lived long enough to reach a hospital. At another booth, Huberty killed a 45-year-old banker, Hugo Vasquez, with a single shot to the chest. The first of many calls to emergency services was made shortly after 4 p.m., notifying police of the shooting of a child who had been taken to the post office on San Ysidro Boulevard. The dispatcher mistakenly responded officers to another McDonald's 2 miles away from the San Ysidro Boulevard restaurant. This error delayed the imposition of a lockdown by several minutes, and the only warnings to civilians near the restaurant were given by passers-by. Shortly after 4 p.m., a young woman named Lydia Flores drove into the parking lot. Stopping at the food pickup window, Flores noticed shattered windows and the sounds of gunfire before looking up, and there he was, just shooting. Flores reversed her car until she crashed into a fence. She hid in some bushes with her 2-year-old daughter, Melissa, until the shooting ended. At approximately 4:05 p.m., a Mexican couple, Astolfo and Marciela Felix, drove towards one of the service areas of the restaurant. Noting the shattered glass, Astolfo initially assumed renovation work was in progress and that Huberty, striding toward the car, was a repairman. Huberty fired his shotgun and Uzi at the couple and their 4-month-old daughter, Carlita, striking Marcella in the face, arms, and chest, blinding her in one eye and permanently rendering her hand unusable. Carlita was critically wounded in the neck, chest, and abdomen. Astolfo was wounded in the chest and head as Astolfo and Marciela staggered away from the Huberty's line of fire. Marciela gave their baby to their husband. Astolfo handed the shrieking child to a young woman named Lucia Velasco, and his wife collapsed against the car. Velasco rushed the baby to a nearby hospital as her husband assisted Astolfo and Marciela into a nearby building. All 3 members of the Felix family survived. 3 11-year-old boys then rode their BMX bikes into the west parking lot. Hearing a member of the public yell something unintelligible from across the street, all 3 hesitated before Huberty shot the 3 boys with his shotgun and Uzi. Joshua Coleman fell to the ground and critically wounded in the back, arm, and leg. He later recalled looking toward his 2 friends, Omar Alonso Hernandez and David Flores Delgado, noting that Hernandez was on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds to his back and had started vomiting. Delgado had received several gunshot wounds to his head. Coleman survived. Hernandez and Delgado both died at the scene. Huberty next noticed an elderly couple, 74-year-old Miguel Victoria Ulolo and 69-year-old Ada Velazquez Victoria, walking toward the entrance. As Miguel reached to open the door for his wife, Huberty fired his shotgun, killing Ada with a gunshot to the face and wounding Miguel. 2 uninjured survivors, Osco Mondragon and Maria Silvia, later reported observing Miguel cradling his wife in his arms, wiping blood away from her face, shouting curses at Huberty, who then approached the doorway, swore at Miguel, and then killed him with a shot to the head. Jesus, man.
Wow.
This is brutal. I kind of forgot how brutal it actually was.
Yeah.
Let's just get through it, I guess. Approximately 10 minutes after the first call had been placed to emergency services, police arrived at the correct McDonald's restaurant. The first officer on the scene, Miguel Rosario, rapidly determined the location and cause of the actual disturbance and relayed this information to the San Diego Police Department as Huberty fired at Rosario's patrol car. Officers deployed immediately imposed a lockdown on an area spanning 6 blocks from the site of the shootings. The police established a command post 2 blocks from the restaurant and deployed 175 officers in numerous strategic locations. These officers were joined within the hour by several SWAT team members who also took positions around the restaurant.
Wow.
As you gonna say something?
That's a lot of officers.
Yeah.
Almost 200.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, back then they said it was like, you know what I mean? At the time, it was the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history.
Oh.
So I mean, they weren't fucking around. You know what I mean? It was. I'm sure, like you said, it wasn't something that just happened all the time back then. So it's probably like, you know what I mean? They're probably like, what the fuck's going on? They probably had no idea. So like, fuck, just send everybody. As Huberty was firing rapidly and alternating between firearms, police initially were unaware how many individuals were inside the restaurant. Furthermore, because of most of the restaurant's windows had been shattered by gunfire, reflections from the shards of glass provided an additional difficulty for police focusing inside the restaurant. Initially, police were concerned the gunman or gunmen might be holding hostages, although one individual who had escaped from the restaurant informed police there was a single gunman present in the premises holding no hostages and shooting any individual he encountered. At 5:05 p.m., all responding law enforcement personnel were authorized to kill perpetrators should they obtain a clear shot. Several survivors later reported observing Huberty walk towards the service counter and adjust a portable radio, possibly to search for news reports of his shooting spree, before selecting a music station and further shooting individuals as he danced to the music. Jesus Christ, this guy's a fucking nut job.
Yeah. Well.
Shortly thereafter, Huberty searched the kitchen area, discovering 6 employees and shouting, "Oh, there's more. You're trying to hide from me, you bastards." In response, one of the female employees screamed in Spanish, "Don't kill me, don't kill me," before Huberty opened fire, killing 21-year-old Paulina Lopez, 19-year-old Elsa Baboro Fierro, and 18-year-old Margarita Padilla, and critically wounding 17-year-old Albert Leos. Immediately before Huberty had begun shooting, Padilla grabbed the hand of her friend and colleague, 17-year-old Wendy Flanagan, before the two began to run. Padilla was then fatally shot. Flanagan, 4 other employees, and a female customer and her infant hid inside a basement utility room. They were later joined by Leos, who had crawled to the utility room after being shot 5 times. When a fire truck drove within range, Huberty opened fire and repeatedly pierced the vehicle with bullets, slightly wounding one occupant. Hearing a wounded teenager, 19-year-old Jose Perez, moaning, Huberty shot him in the head. The youth slumped dead beside the booth he had been seated at. Perez died alongside his friend and neighbor, 22-year-old Gloria Gonzalez, and a young woman named Michelle Carncross. At one point, Aurora Pina, who had lain wounded beside her dead aunt, baby cousin, and 2 friends, noted a lull in the firing. Opening her eyes, she saw Huberty nearby, staring in her direction. He swore and threw a bag of French fries at Pina, then retrieved his shotgun and shot the child in the arm, neck, and jaw. Aurora Pina survived, although she would remain hospitalized longer than any other survivor. At 5:17 p.m., Huberty walked from the service counter towards the doorway close to the drive-in window of the restaurant, affording a 27-year-old police SWAT sniper named Charles Foster, deployed to a strategic position on the roof of a post office directly opposite the restaurant, an unobstructed view of his body from the neck down through the telescopic sight of his .308 caliber rifle. Foster fired a single round from a range of approximately 35 yards. The bullet entered Huberty's chest, severed his aorta, just beneath his heart, and exited through his spine, leaving a 1 square inch exit wound and sending Huberty sprawling backwards onto the floor directly in front of the service counter, killing him almost instantly. I never did see his face. The first time I was actually able to see Huberty, he was sitting on a counter in about the middle of the building. Then he got up and started walking toward the door, where we had a better view of him from the neck down. He stopped about 6 feet from the door, so I took the shot. He dropped the Uzi and was thrown back a few feet. SWAT sniper Charles Foster, recollecting his shooting of James Huberty, July 1985. Immediately after shooting Huberty, Foster relayed to other responding officers he had killed the perpetrator and that his focus remained on the motionless suspect. Nonetheless, as so many rounds had been expanded from different firearms within the restaurant, police were not completely certain that the sole perpetrator was deceased. Entering the restaurant approximately 1 minute later, a police sergeant focused his gun upon Huberty as he noted the movements of a wounded girl. When asked if the deceased male was the suspect, the girl nodded her head. Although Huberty was evidently deceased, a precaution, an officer turned his body face down and handcuffed his wrists behind his back. The entire incident had lasted for 77 minutes, during which Huberty fired a minimum of 257 rounds of ammunition, killing 20 people and wounding as many others, one of whom was pronounced brain dead upon arrival at the hospital and died the following day. 17 of the victims were killed inside the restaurant and 4 in the immediate vicinity. Only 10 individuals inside the restaurant were uninjured, 6 of whom who had hidden inside the basement utility room. Several victims had tried to stanch their own wounds and or the wounds of their companions with napkins, often in vain. Of the fatalities, 13 died from gunshot wounds to the head, 7 from gunshot wounds to the chest, and 1 victim, 8-month-old Carlos Reyes, from a single 9mm shotgun shot to the back. The victims, whose ages ranged from 4 months to 74 years, were predominantly, though not exclusively, of Mexican or Mexican-American ancestry, reflecting local demographics. Prior to shooting several of his victims, Huberty had shouted accusations or insults. On one occasion, he had also shouted that he himself did not deserve to live, but that he was taking care of this matter. Although Huberty had repeatedly shouted throughout his shooting spree that he had been a veteran of the Vietnam War, he had actually never served in any military branch. Initial reports issued by the San Diego Police Department following the massacre indicated that everyone injured or killed within the restaurant had been shot by Huberty in the initial minutes after he had first entered the restaurant. This claim was hotly disputed by the survivors, who stated Huberty had both shot and wounded and unwounded people over 40 minutes after he first opened fire. Jesus Christ, dude. The day after the massacre, reporters visited James Huberty's father in Mount Eaton, Ohio, to gain further information about his son. Having discussed his son's childhood and the family's religious backgrounds, Earl Huberty pointed to a painting of a lost sheep by the Jordan River before beginning to weep, informing reporters, "Yesterday was the worst day of my life. I feel so sorry for those people." McDonald's temporarily suspended all television and radio advertisements in the days following the massacre. In the act of solidarity, arch-rival food chain Burger King also temporarily suspended all forms of advertising. Huberty's body was cremated on July 23, 1984. No official religious service observed throughout this act. His ashes were returned to his widow and later interred in his home state of Ohio. In the weeks following the massacre, Huberty's wife and daughters received numerous death threats, forcing them to temporarily reside with a family friend. All 3 would attend counseling sessions for over 9 months. Etna Huberty and her daughters initially relocated from San Ysidro to Chula Vista, where Zelia and Cassandra enrolled in school under assumed names. 1 year later, the family moved to the community of Spring Valley in San Diego City. Because of the sheer number of victims, local funeral homes had to use San Ysidro Civic Center to hold wakes for each victim. The local parish, Mount Carmel Church, was forced to hold back-to-back funeral masses in order that each of the dead could be buried in a timely manner. Several police officers who responded to the scene of the massacre suffered symptoms including sleep withdrawal, loss of memory, and guilt in the months following the incident. A study commissioned by the National Institute of Mental Health and conducted by the chief psychologist of the San Diego Police Department in 1985 concluded several officers suffered post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of the incident. The massacre prompted the city of San Diego to assess the tactical methods by which they responded to incidents of this nature and firearms in the possession of responding officers. The police department increased training for special units and purchased more powerful firearms in order to better equip law enforcement to respond to scenarios of this magnitude. According to one officer who confessed to having felt inadequate because he had been equipped with a .38 caliber revolver on the day of the massacre, the time had come where you had to have a full-time, committed, and dedicated, highly trained, well-equipped team able to respond rapidly anywhere in the city. On August 2nd, San Diego Police Chief William Colander held a press conference to disclose the results of the San Diego's Police Department's inquiry into the response to the massacre, and the fact that an estimated 73 minutes had elapsed between the time the first police officer had arrived at the restaurant and Huberty's death. The results of this internal inquiry found that although the arrival of SWAT team members was delayed by rush hour traffic, the police acted appropriately in their method of response. Colander stated any suggestion police should have stormed the restaurant was ludicrous, adding that the officers had been unable to obtain a clear view of the gunman because windows had been spiderwebbed by bullet holes, making visibility in direct sunlight difficult. He also emphasized that the 8-minute delay between the passing of the instruction authorizing all law enforcement personnel to kill Huberty and his death had made no difference in the final death toll. Colander finished his report by stating, "I believe the operation was handled the way it should have been handled." When questioned in regards to the actual motive behind Huberty's murder spree, Colander dismissed any notion of racial motive behind the massacre, informing reporters he just didn't like anybody. Within 2 days of the massacre, the restaurant had refurbished and renovated. The restaurant planned to open again for business and hoped that, as one employee commented, the building would become just another McDonald's. Following discussions between community leaders and McDonald's executives, the decision was reached on July 24th that the restaurant would not reopen. The renovated restaurant was demolished at midnight on September 26th. Following the closure and demolition of the restaurant, McDonald's donated the ground to the city with the stipulation that no restaurant be constructed upon the site. For over 4 years, alternate plans to convert the site into either a memorial park or a shrine to the dead were considered. The land was sold in February 1988 to Southwestern College for $136,000 with the agreement that a 300-square-foot area in front of the campus extension to the college intended to construct be set aside as a permanent memorial to the 21 victims. McDonald's later constructed another restaurant 2 blocks from the site of the massacre upon West San Ysidro Boulevard. The restaurant chain also announced a commitment to donate $1 million to a survivors fund, with Joan Kroc, the widow of the McDonald's founder Ray Kroc, also adding a personal contribution of $100,000 to assist with burial costs, financial aid for relatives of deceased, and counseling for survivors. The sum total of donations received by this fund would exceed $1.4 million. Amidst impromptu protests from San Ysidro residents and donors, Etna Huberty received the first payout from this fund. A permanent memorial to those killed in the massacre was formally unveiled in 1990. This memorial consists of 21 hexagonal white marble pillars, 1 to 6 feet each, bearing the name of a victim. The sculpture was designed by a former Southwestern College student named Roberto Valdez, who had said of his inspiration for the design, the 21 hexagons represent each person that died, and they are different heights, representing the variety of ages and races of the people involved in the massacre. They are bonded together in the hopes that the community and a tragedy like this will stick together like they did. The monument is located at 460 West San Ysidro Boulevard. Each anniversary of the San Ysidro McDonald's massacre sees this monument decorated with flowers. On the 3 days, people of Mexican heritage observe the Day of the Dead. Candles and offerings are brought on behalf of the victims. Several family members of those killed, along with survivors of the massacres, filed lawsuits against McDonald's and the San Diego Police Department. These suits were heard in the San Diego County Superior Court. All lawsuits were consolidated and later dismissed before a trial on a defense motion for summary judgment. The plaintiffs appealed this ruling. On July 25, 1987, the California Court of Appeal affirmed summary judgment for the defendants, ruling McDonald's or any other business has no duty of care to protect patrons from an unforeseeable assault by a murderous madman, and they implemented security measures typically used by restaurants to deter criminals, such as guards and closed-circuit television cameras could not possibly have deterred the perpetrator, as he did not care about his own survival. Furthermore, the San Diego Police Department were also exonerated by any culpability or negligence of the appellate panel ruling. In view of the sheer horror of the ordeal, it is difficult to imagine anything the police could have done or failed to do which would have made the risk any greater than that to which the victims were exposed before the police arrived. The final lawsuits were dismissed in August 1991. In July 1986, Etna Huberty filed a lawsuit against both McDonald's and her husband's longtime former employee Babcock and Wilcox. This civil suit, seeking $5 million in damages, asserted her husband's murder spree had been triggered by a combination of a poor diet and her husband working around highly poisonous metals without adequate protection over the course of many years. The suit specifically cited that no traces of either drug or alcohol had been discovered in Huberty's body at his autopsy, negating any possibility of his actions being influenced by either factor, and the alleged accrual of high levels of lead, cadmium discovered in Hubert's body at the autopsy had most likely accumulated via ongoing exposure to the fumes inhaled during the 13 years he had been employed as a welder without sufficient respiratory protection by Babcock and Wilcox, and that a combination of Huberty's exposure to these chemicals with his ingesting high levels of monosodium glutamate in the staple McDonald's food he had regularly consumed had induced delusions and uncontrollable rage. This lawsuit was dismissed in 1987. Etna Huberty died of breast cancer in 2003. Survivor Albert Leos later became a police officer. He served in several police departments in the South Bay region of San Diego. Leos later joined the San Diego Police Department. That's it.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw it, but
Yeah, it's loosely inspired by the massacre.
we also learned that
They also did a documentary in 2016 about it called 77 Minutes, the 1984 San Diego McDonald's massacre. Focuses upon the murders committed by James Huberty, directed by Charles Min. This documentary features interviews with many individuals present in the restaurant at the time of the murders and the SWAT sniper who ended the massacre. Yeah, like I said at the beginning of this, and at the time, it was known as the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in U.S. history. But it still, to this day, does remain the deadliest mass shooting in California.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy, dude. I forgot like how
See, that
like
wouldn't
brutal
happen
that
today 'cause
was.
there's not that many people inside of McDonald's at one time. Because you figure today they have drive-through.
It's fucking crazy, dude. We
Yeah.
literally were just sitting here talking about how when it's children involved, it's always harder.
Yes.
And then we immediately get into this, and it's fucking just like the most brutal shit you've ever heard. It's crazy, dude. I mean, it sucks that, like, you know what I mean, we're putting out the episode now with everything that's going on, but like we said, there's never going to be a good time to talk about this kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Unfortunately, yeah, it's
Yeah. And,
it's becoming to where we're just cold of it.
yeah.
We're like, oh well.
Yeah, where, like, it doesn't even really surprise you anymore. Which, as sad as that is,
Yeah.
but it's true. You know, and it sucks, but... I mean, that's just something I've, like with the yogurt shop murders, that's just something I've wanted to talk about for a while. Not in the kind of ways, like, where I want to, like, glorify it, because you never
Right.
would do something like that, but just more in the way of, like, I don't know, kind of just to, you know, shine a light on how fucking messed up people really can be.
Right.
You know?
And
And this guy had all the signs of being a fucking whack job.
right. And he tried to get help, and apparently they have a hard time communicating in California. Not only did she not think the call was serious enough, the 911 dispatcher gave the wrong address to the wrong McDonald's.
That's why I say a lot, too, like, when there's these mass shootings a lot, you know, that's why I always say there's, you know, I always like to remind people there's a mental health problem in this country. There always has been, you know what I mean? And if we be, you know what I mean? Obviously, we're more serious about mental health than we were back then, but the more serious we get about mental health and the more resources there are for mental health, you know what I mean, the smaller risk there's going to be for shit like this to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of the time, these guys, not that I'm excusing ever doing something like this, because this should never be your option. You know what I mean? But a lot of times, these people are so broken that they don't have any other option. You know what I mean? That's like, in their mind, they're like, oh, this is what I need to do. Basically, you know what I mean? So, I think another problem too, just like go hand in hand with the mental health thing. And I could say this because somebody who's like going through it right now, not like having thoughts of doing anything like this, but I feel like a lot of the times now, especially now, when it comes to mental health stuff, a lot of like doctors and stuff, their solution is just, okay, we'll put them on medication.
Right.
Well, you know, the medication doesn't always work, because I thankfully made the decision on my own to start weaning off my antidepressants, because I felt worse taking them than I ever did when I was off of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So just putting somebody on medication for that kind of shit isn't always the answer either. You know what I mean? Sometimes people just need to talk about shit, dude.
It's funny that you say that, because when I started going through my health issues, I wanted to talk to somebody, and she asked me if I wanted medication. I said no, and she says, well, I can't talk to you then.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like, "Excuse
crazy.
me? I just want to talk. I don't need medication. I'm on enough."
Yeah, I think I say this a lot too, and like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it from like a place of like judging anybody, but I'm saying it from like a place of like, I'm also guilty of it. I think a big problem too, like society now, is these. These are a huge problem.
Yeah,
Because I feel like with cell phones, a lot of people have stopped like engaging with other people. You know what I mean?
like social.
Like you
media
get on a
is just
bus, you know what I mean? You get on a bus or something nowadays, everybody's on their phone. Nobody's talking to each other anymore.
It's, my mom used to say that too. When I used
Yeah.
to take her to her doctor's appointments. Nobody talks to anybody anymore. Everybody's buried in their phones.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, not to like, not even like in a joking manner to poke fun at you guys, but obviously you grew up during a time before cell phones were like a huge thing, and I'm sure you notice how much of a difference it is now in society than it was back then. Like back then, everybody was, you know what I mean? Your neighbors were like your best friends because you talked every day. People don't do that shit anymore.
No.
Nobody talks to each other anymore. You try to have just like a basic conversation with somebody, like face to face, or even like my generation. There's a lot of people in my generation don't even like talking on the phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they hate talking on the phone. Oh, text me. You know what I mean? I'm not putting blame on anybody because I'm guilty of it too. You know what I mean? A lot of times I'm like, fuck, I don't want to talk on the phone. I don't want to talk to you face to face. I'd rather just text you. You know what I mean? But that's just the generation I grew up in, and I think that's a big problem too. Is that as a society, I think we, you know what I mean? I think we say a lot about, oh, we need to be there for each other, but I think we aren't actually there for each other. Like a lot of people say you need to do it, but nobody actually really does it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is sad, dude, and it sucks. And it sucks that, you know, shit like this. I mean, I'm not excusing what the guy did, but it sucks that people think that this is their only option, you know what I mean? To do something like that. And it could also be like, you know what I mean? I know, like, our big thing on here was not to really talk about politics, but that could be brought into it a lot, too. A lot of people don't talk to each other now because they're so divided by politics and shit. Yeah. Like the dude, you know what I mean? The Charlie Kirk shooter, whatever his reason was, you know, if it was because he didn't agree with the shit that dude believed in, like, what happened to just talking to each other about shit like that? You know what I mean? Instead of, no, I don't like what you do. And I'm not saying one side's guilty of it because both sides are guilty of it. Both sides do it. Everybody does it. But when did it become a place where it's like, oh, I don't agree with what you got to say, so poof, yeah.
You're gone.
Before we used to be able to talk shit out. You know what I mean?
Right.
It sucks, man. It's sad. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than it fucking sucks.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's shitty.
There were so many failures in that case, and it seems like some things have been improved, but in the end, like, this isn't significantly different than what happens now.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. You think that, like, all these years later, 30, 40 years later, that we'd be better at this, and we aren't. Like that one school shooting, the officers didn't go in. Like, they were outside for hours, and they didn't have a plan. Like, how do you not have a plan 40 years after this type of shooting? Like, you know, then, you know, and all those weird ones. Like, you know, mental illness is an awful thing, but it doesn't feel like, you know, at least in this one, there are better things now with the mandatory reporting, and, you know, like, and obviously you feel bad for the wife because she was already, like, abused, so she tried. She probably was scared to do any more because she, you know, like,
I mean, I could
she
understand
thought, and
that.
you know, they had daughters.
Yeah.
Like, the one daughter watched it. She said, like, I was reading through, like, the one daughter, like, watched it because he only lived down the street from that. She watched out a window. Imagine, like, the one daughter became a nurse, and she, like, felt that was her penance for the rest of her life to try to take care of people. But it's just awful.
Yeah,
you know?
it sucks, man. It's never, and I think kind of in a way, you know, even though I kind of didn't want to do this episode, I think in a way I'm kind of glad we did do it. Because maybe seeing something like this will get people to start talking more about, you know, like Rich said, how all these years later, it's still kind of the same, basically. You know, I mean, not a lot has changed.
You think that people nowadays are more likely to report things?
Yeah, I think so,
feel
too.
like
I
that
think so, too.
is the one thing that we've learned from all of these things. There have been some things. I don't know, maybe there have been more things that have been prevented than we realize. But at the end of the day, there's just too many guns. There's just too many guns out there, and it's probably too easy to get guns. Like, you know, ultimately, that's the scary thing. Like, I mean, I remember when I first started teaching, like 40 years ago or whatever the heck it was. Like, not 40, but I remember when I was going to get, like, a gun permit. I started the process. I never finished it, but it was, like, really easy to get guns back then. Like, it really wasn't that hard to get a rifles. You almost don't need one, right? Like, you can almost walk into you know, I mean, it's just maybe, and obviously most of the guns that are being used against it that are much more sophisticated, you know. I don't know, scary.
I agree. Very scary.
You know, maybe someone watched this and they'll realize that if they ever know somebody out there, they got to report them.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that'd be nice. I think also, too, like, on the, you know, like, the idea of, like, people not really talking to each other anymore. I think that's one of the things that I also love about podcasting is it, like, gives you, you know what I mean? It gives you that open, you know what I mean? Where you can just sit down and you can just talk to people, you know what I mean? Which that essentially is what this is for, is just to sit down and talk to people.
Yeah, to have a
You know what I mean?
dialogue.
What?
Have a dialogue. So maybe, like, if people now, like over here, I'm just was scrolling a little bit on my phone while you guys were doing it. I was listening, but and the conversations people have now that they won't have in they won't ever they act all tough like on the internet, but they wouldn't actually sit down with someone and have a real conversation. They'd rather just attack somebody's character. Or you're this or you're that, and it's both sides. It's not one sided.
Oh yeah,
but like it's
everybody's guilty.
Scary. Yeah, sit down and talk to somebody. Like if I ever had a problem with people when I was working, like I just go and knock on their door and like in their classroom, and I go, hey, I saw you posted something or you put something in an email about me or one of my students or whatever. I'm like, you want to talk about it? Like, whoa. They were shocked when you would go and try to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I didn't go in there like I was going to kick their ass or anything. They just went, hey, you something wrong? You want to talk about it? Like, and then eventually I get to a point like, like you don't know why you don't know that much about me. Like,
I think, obviously, I mean, we've talked about it a lot on here, obviously, with like the mental health shit. But I think that's another big thing, too, that podcasting helps with. Because I don't know if I ever would have or how many more years it would have taken me to finally open up about my mental health if we weren't doing this. You know what I mean?
I agreed. I'm the same way.
This opened the conversation for me to be able to talk about it, and then it led to, like, Fiden talking to me about it. Now other people talk to me about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's...
I have been very open that, after the passing of my dad, like, I ended up in counseling because I wasn't well, and I wasn't doing anything, like, I just wasn't myself, and I was trying so hard to, like, hey, it's fine. You try to put on, like try to be like this like superhero, like you're a dad, and like one of the best things I did is started just telling people, like including my own children, like, yeah, I gotta go get some help. Like, like no, I didn't need a lot. I was just like, how do I needed help with dealing with anxiety and this like just like someone just to talk to, like, and I did have, ironically, during that time period, one of the best things I had going on in my life was the podcast that my son and I did at Matt's place. Yeah. Was like that hour and a half a week where I just wasn't thinking about grief and everything else and just having a good time with my son. My son benefited from it as well. Like just talking about Star Wars or whatever the frick we talked about. Like it was just, but it was an escape. Kind of like we talked about in the beginning. Like going to the movies was an escape.
Yeah, it's perfect.
We need to be able to escape.
I agree. I think, even when we come on here and, like me and Yoder will joke about like, oh, God, what the fuck is Chop going to have us talking about this week? You know what I mean? Even when we come in here and we talk about something stupid that he wants to talk about. It's still, you know what I mean, time that we don't have to, you know what I mean? Not exactly not deal with what we got going on outside of it, but it gives us a chance to like get away from it for a little bit.
People obsess over their problems and then it just gets harder and harder and harder. And then, like, my therapist taught me the most important technically under my therapist, and shout out to him, was like, he's like, your problem is you write stories in your head. He's like, you go down these rabbit holes because you think this is going to happen, and oh my God, then that's going to happen. Oh my God, then that's going to happen. He's like, and all of a sudden you're having a panic attack, and that's what I was having because I literally thought I was having heart attack. I was having like massive panic attacks at work. Like crazy place. Just I'd be sitting on the couch watching a movie, and something in the movie would trigger me about a concern I had about something in my life, and I'm literally like, like sweating and literally. And he's like, I didn't even know what it was. Like until I went. He's like, those are panic attacks, buddy. I'm like, what? Like, because I guess I was so afraid to realize what it was. Again, because I was writing these stories in my head. So like what I've learned that I gotta like break that cycle when I start writing these stories in my head. And I mean, I use that technique. Luckily, I've kind of not using it as much, but I still have those moments like 3:00 in the morning when you wake up and you start overthinking things. Yes. And then I think that's the thing I try to tell people. Like, there's no shame in going and getting a little bit of help.
Yeah, I agree. I think, a lot of people in my family, recently who never did it before, never believed in that shit before, have counselors now, and, it helps them a ton. And a lot of people in my family are like, oh, you should go and see a counselor. And I'm like, yeah, but kind of in a way, podcasting is my counselor. You know what I mean? It gives me you know what I mean? That's why, like, all the times I wanted to end the podcast, I'm glad I never went through with it because I know I would have been missing it. You know what I mean? Not doing it. Even though, like, it's that's what I think about a lot too. Like if I have a rough day at work or something, I'm like, I really don't want to do this podcast this week. You know what I mean? Forcing myself to come in here and do this and stick with the habit of it, you know what I mean, I think has helped me a lot in the long run without even really realizing it, that it's helping me. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, and it's cool too, like being here. You know, I mean, being here because, you know, Rich is here, so, you know, I could come here, me and you could chat about like movies and shit or the shows we're watching, and it's like, dude, you know what I mean? This is what I need. Like, I need human interaction.
Like last week, I didn't want to do the pod, but I'm like,
yeah. It's a great thing to like push yourself. You know what I mean? Once you like push yourself to do it, I feel like once you get through like that little wall of like pushing yourself, then you're like, fuck, you know what? I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Literally,
I came here
the thing I say to, and it's funny that you said this. A friend of my friends was here today, and she hires me to do some production work for the organization she works for. And she loves working, like she was a former student and she does stuff now. So she always hires me, and I'm super appreciative that her organization hires me to produce videos for them. And we were talking about, she wants to start a podcast, but she doesn't know what it would be about. And I said, it doesn't have to be about anything. It just has to be like, you like doing these projects that we do for your company. And I go, because that's what you went to school for. It gives you joy. And I go, and you got your kids now and you got your husband. But I go, what do you do that is yours? Like, what do you do that's not about raising your kids, not about your job? Where's your creative outlet for you? And I think like Matt and I have talked about this. Like I'd say this is the first thing I tell everybody when I talk that I produce this content for people is I go, it's rewarding because like it's a form of expression, and most of us need a form of expression outside of our job.
Yeah,
like that's why some people like cutting the grass or doing landscaping, because it's an expression. Like, look how nice my lawn looks. That's not me. I hate that job. But like people that like to do that, I never make fun of the guy that's out there like who's really meticulous.
Hey,
that's his escape.
Yeah.
Like that's his escape. Like
Nothing wrong with
you
that.
know, like that's what he likes to do.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like he's proud of that. He's proud of his home. Like having that thing that's an outlet. Maybe he hates his job. I don't know. I never but the guy who's got a great lawn. It's the nicest looking lawn on my block. But he's always working on that thing, and I would never make fun of him because, like, man, he cares. He wants people, like, that's his outlet, you know?
right.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I like doing Letterboxd and shit so much. Yeah. It's because I like having, you know what I mean, the idea that somebody out there is reading something that I wrote about a movie. Like that makes me happy. You know? Even if nobody ever reads it, being able to like have something that I could like sit there and like talk about a movie, something that I literally like love more than anything in the
Letterboxd is
world.
nice too, and I tell people about Letterboxd, but I like it, and I don't do as much as you do on there, but I like it because I feel like people that are there like movies. So you don't get like the jerks that are like on Facebook, like, you know, we do Christian's podcast, they're coming to do Peacemaker tonight, and they'll get like weird negative comments on their page, and I'm like we don't like, you know, it's funny, like sometimes you could take it to heart. They have, in general, they have nothing but positive comments, like, which is nice. But like when those negative ones come up, it's like, that's why I like Letterboxd, because in a way, like it's a place where if you're on there, you probably just like movies, and the crowd doesn't seem to be like, well, it's a stupid opinion. Like you don't see too many of those kinds of things on Letterboxd, like the people that comment on your things. Most people are like, oh, I'll have to check it out. Like most people are like, oh, I'll give it a shot. Like, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, and if not, I won't. If you and I don't have the same taste in movies, I just don't follow you. Like, if I look at somebody's thing and he just likes horror movies, I'm not a big horror movie guy. I'm probably not gonna have the same demographic or whatever, like, watch list as him. But I think you and I have a lot of this. Like, you know, I'm gonna probably look now that the big green. I'm gonna have to go watch that one because I want to see
movie.
I want to see, because I used to coach soccer, so I want to see how bad they are portraying soccer.
Oh, that's
like how they get everything wrong. Like, you know, like that's not a foul. Like that's how, you know,
terrible.
My son and I
were terrible at that stuff. But I mean, it's great in like the aspect of like a fun kids movie. You know what I mean? Like a fun like family movie.
Yeah.
Like if I ever have a family one day, that's definitely one of the movies I'm gonna show them because, you know.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, kind of in like a strange way, not to like, you know, try and like, you know, make light of stuff that we talked about, and kind of in a way, you know, this might be, you know, one of my favorite episodes to date. Kind of just because of like, you know, I like that we finished up the actual story of it and like it opened like a conversation on like other things, you know what I mean? Which I think should always be the case. You know what I mean? So I think in that aspect, it's,
Yeah,
but
no, I agree.
obviously it's, I mean, it's going to be a rough story. Not a lot of people are probably going to listen to the episode just because of how rough it is, which is fine. But, you know what I mean? But, I think, overall it's, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Good thing to talk about. But, yeah, I think that's it as far as I know. You got anything you want to talk about? You want to say real quick before we get out of here?
No.
Oh, yeah, real quick. Me and Yoda are going on another bro date this week, and we're finally going to see The Long Walk.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Very excited. I've been waiting to see it for a while, so better
Wait,
not bail
is
again.
it still here or is it somewhere else?
No, it's still in theaters.
Still
Yeah. We've been trying to go see it for a while, but it just hasn't worked out, so
Well,
we're gonna
enjoy.
finally go see it. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. A lot of people are saying that they think it might even be the best movie of the year. That's how good it is, I guess. So.
Well, it's interesting. They changed the Oscar voting process, so a lot of the movies. It's going to be an interesting year for Oscars because I feel like you have to prove that you watched the movie before it gets nominated. So I think you're going to get a different crop of movies this year. There used to be like those just Oscar bait movies that like Meryl Streep was in and nobody saw it, but it would be nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
No offense to Meryl Streep, but it was like movies would just make it and people didn't even say, well, I heard she's really good. Like, well, you didn't see it. Like, so now the people that are in the Academy have to, there's like I don't know what the process is, but now, so I feel like because you're going to have to prove you watch the movies, so a certain movie won't make it in like they used to.
Oh, that's pretty
whether they
cool.
deserved it or not, you're going to have to see the movie. So maybe that will improve the.
Oh, that's pretty
I think
cool.
you're going to see more of mainstream types of movies
Nice.
making it to the nominations.
Hopefully Sinners will win something.
I feel like Sinners is going to definitely be in there.
Yeah, probably. It was a big movie.
Cornbread.
Cornbread. But,
All
all right, yeah, I guess that's it for us. See you guys next week, obviously. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. Shout out to Scuzzernut again for bringing it to our attention that the yogurt shop murders was solved.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Also gave us an idea for another episode. I got to look into it. I forgot. But, yeah, I guess that's it from us. In honor of Chop, thanks for riding along, losers.
See you next week.